Hello.
Danielle, hello, my friend. How are you, sir?
Very good.
Excellent. You're in with Yannick has joined. Hello, Yannick. Nice to see you. Don't hear you, but I can see you.
Hear me now?
I can. Hi, Yannick. Nice to meet you, or see you, I should say.
Yes.
Danielle, Yannick, Danielle. We have a few people that joined. Let me just check my participants. There's some folks who are, we've got people with their cameras off, which is fine. We've got Margie in the waiting room as well. We've got a couple of other speakers who are still to join. Welcome. And Remy has joined. Fantastic. Best news I've had all day. There we go. Mainly because I do really like Remy, but he's also one of our speakers today. So this is fantastic. Hello, Margie. Nice to see you. Remy. Here is one of the speakers, and Beetle is also here. Fantastic. Let me just see if we've got other folks in the waiting room. Not right now. Terrific. Hello, everybody. So good to see you. I'm excited. I'm very, very excited to have this opportunity. I just want to, before I do all the intros and everything, we're going to let people come in. But my first question is for Beetle, who I know was not feeling well. How are you feeling? You okay?
Yeah, I'm better. Thanks, Nick. Thank you. So I'm going to be retested in a couple days, they told me. So we will see. I know I was negative so far, but I'm sick, guys. So I got this.
Yeah. No problem. It's so grateful to have you here, and actually grateful for all our guests who are in virtually and waiting, or either you've got your cameras off or your videos off. Now listen, I'm going to jump in because people are going to be trickling in, but we have a certain amount of time, and also I'm on a deadline too. I have to jump on a plane in about 3 hours, so I've got to finish our workshop, our showcase, and then jump over to Calgary to deliver a program, which I'm very excited about. But this is a big deal, and I want to explain for those of you who are familiar with what I do, or familiar with the program, or aren't, I should say. I'm really thrilled to have you here. This is the first time that we've actually opened up a showcase for a cohort who has gone through our program, the Accelerator program, to present. And so allow me to explain a little bit about what you're going to experience here today. And I'm going to also share a few rules that anybody that's been in my webinars or in my workshops are familiar with the rules. And in fact, the speakers today will have heard me bring them up ad nauseum. They're tired of my rules, but they're rules for a reason. So first and foremost, let me share my screen briefly, and let me know, one moment here, if you can see my screen. Can everyone see the Impact Accelerator on the screen?
Not yet, maybe coming.
Oh, yeah. Okay, that's good. That's why I asked. How about now? No? Interesting.
No.
All right, well, we'll try it again. Let's do, this is why you always ask, can you see my screen? Let's try this again. How about there?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So for those of you that aren't familiar with what we're doing here, the Impact Accelerator is a program. Well, you know what, if it's okay, I don't want to put you on the spot, but Danielle, you're going to be one of our first speakers today. Do you want to share what this program was and maybe even why you did it? And then we'll dive into the actual speaking itself in just a moment.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking for, I was looking for lots of things, but I was looking for someone to talk to who knew about how to get ideas across. Okay. And communicate them in an effective manner. And I have spoken to people who know how to do this, but I just like the idea of a course structured over several months in the way you presented it. And yeah, so the course is really about storytelling, I guess. That's what I got out of this, storytelling.
Wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah.
Danielle, I appreciate you sharing, and I'm sorry I put you on the spot there. I'm going to share with everybody very briefly the shape of the program, not the intricacies of it, but what we cover. And the reason I'm sharing this is I want everyone to understand the journey that these learners have gone through over the course of 6 months. And you know, when we're looking at translating very complex content, and what you've got today is 3 presenters who are experts in their field. You've got a medical technologist or a technical oncologist. You've got an endocrinologist, and you've got a physicist, a quantum physicist. My apologies, Danielle. And then there are others who couldn't be here today who are experts in mergers and acquisitions. They were experts in technology services, very, very specific, very niche services. So what we've covered over the course of 6 months is 3 core principles. We started by looking at 3 core principles. And the first is simplify. How do you simplify your content, your messaging in a way that helps people understand that very complex ideas and content? And as you can imagine, from Betul, Remy, or Danielle, who are all our 3 speakers for today, they all have complex knowledge stored up here. And we all actually, especially as we go through our years of experience, we suffer from what I call the clutter of the curse of knowledge. The clutter of the curse of knowledge. So how do we simplify it? That's the first thing. The second thing is transform. That's the second principle. How do we take that simplified messaging and transform it in a way that is engaging? And it's actually through the use of language and storytelling. And then the third principle is performance, or a performance mindset. And how do we engage with our audience and our listeners in a way that people that encourages them to pay attention, right? To pay attention. So, and I did that pause dramatically because I wanted to see if I was going to get heads moving, and I did. And now I've got Remy smiling and Danielle smiling, and this is what I call a connection. And so when we embrace these 3 principles, number 1, we create access to information that was previously inaccessible. We, wow, there we go. I've always had this issue with there we go, principle. We end up with a deeper understanding of the content. And finally, we create a connection. And that is right here. There we go, connection. So I'm not going to speak much longer, but I did want to share these principles because this is what it means to communicate with impact, to create access, understanding, and connection by simplifying, transform, and performing your messaging. And each one of the presenters that we're working with, or that we're going to hear from today, have done exactly that. And so I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled to be able to share these presentations and these speakers with you. Now, let me start by sharing with you our first speaker, and Danielle has kindly offered to go first. And let me just jump over to my introductions. There we go. Oh, that's why it's over here. My apologies. Okay, so let's start with, first of all, for those of you that don't know me, I feel like I should explain because we have a bunch of guests. My name is Nick Kindler, and I am the CEO of Kindler and Company. I am the executive communication coach working with leaders all across the world, including these leaders here today. And I'll be your host for today. Our first speaker is Danielle Facchio. And Danielle, I'm going to share a little bit of your bio. I'm not going, by the way, for each one of these speakers, they are so well respected and educated. I could spend the entire time reading off their bios. So I'm going to use a portion of them, but I just so you can get a sense of the status or the stature of the speakers. Danielle is a Royal Academy Chair in Emerging Technologies. He's a fellow of the Royal Society of Edinburgh, and Cavalier d'Ordine, I can't even pronounce, d'Ordine della Stella d'Italia, the Knight of Order of the Star of Italy. So that was Italian, me butchering its Italian, my apologies.
It's okay.
He joined the University of Glasgow in 2017 as a professor in quantum technologies, where he leads the Extreme Light Group and is the director of research for the School of Physics and Astronomy. He is a decorated and awarded professor. He is awarded the Philip Louverhelm Prize in Physics in 2015, the Royal Society of Edinburgh Senior Public Engagement Medal, and the Royal Society Wolfson Merit Award in 2017. So, ladies and gentlemen, if we could mute ourselves while Danielle speaks, we will get a chance to ask him questions a little bit later in the program, but please welcome Danielle Facchio.
Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. So let me share screen. Okay, this is not the screen sharing I was expecting to see, so just a minute. So I think I'm going to need to, so if I go full screen, what happens here? Do you see that full screen?
We are seeing your notes. There we go. That's it, Danielle.
Okay, okay. Bear with me a moment. I just wanted to make sure I could see everyone, which I think would be helpful. There we go. I can see everyone now. Okay. So here we go. So today, I wanted to talk to you about our islands of consciousness. I wanted to talk to you about how our isolated brains might be enhanced through a physical connection with artificial intelligence, and how at the same time, maybe also make computers more humane. Consciousness, or feeling human, is after all what makes us special and unique. Yet very often, it's only when we lose our ability to interact as humans that we actually pay attention and notice this. So this realization was forced upon me a few years ago, when I lived through the experience of a stroke with a person very close to me, my mother. So, sorry about that. So she was passionate, opinionated. We fought and battled all the time in the way that probably only a mother and son can actually understand. She was human. But then she had a stroke and something was lost. It was as if though she was trapped in a glass room and she was fully aware of exactly what was going on around her. It was clear that she knew exactly what she wanted to say, but she couldn't. Could see the frustration on her face that she just simply could not say the words. She could not formulate any kind of meaningful sentences. She basically became isolated and became even more an island of consciousness, unable to express her humanity. So this was a very hard time to get through, of course, and it did leave me with a lot to think about. As a scientist, I started asking myself questions. What happens when our island of consciousness becomes smaller? Are we less human? What if we could find ways to bridge these islands of consciousness between our brains? Or can we maybe even go beyond this and enhance what makes us human in the first place? It is these connections, these bridges, after all, that make our relationships meaningful. And yet here we are, despite probably what Nick has told us to do, each of us thinking about our own thoughts, maybe looking at our own phones, going about our own business. We are, in the end, all of us, just islands. So how many times have you felt frustrated that you were not being understood, or that maybe you could not understand another, yet maybe important person in your life. Now, I'd like you to just go back for a moment to that feeling of frustration. And now wonder, what if we could make all of that go away? So brain-to-brain connectivity is going to take a long time to sort out. I'm talking about the science here. This is maybe a 10 or even a 20, 30-year vision, but we can and we should start to look for the foundations on which we can build this. And from a physicist's point of view, what that merely means is finding alternative forms of computation that somehow combine or use the capability of human brains for that computation. My background as a physicist is in an area which is called computational imaging. So here I'm just taking a quote from Ramesh Raskar, who works at MIT Media Labs. Computational imaging is the joint design of optical capture and computational algorithms to create novel systems. So what Ramesh is trying to tell us here is that there's a form of computation that uses images, that takes a camera and tries to fuse that together with artificial intelligence to be able to see something new. So what does that have to do with us? Well, what if we tried to replace the camera with the human brain? I mean, after all, our brains house two amazing optical devices. We have two eyes that process the information, go back to the rear end of our head, and then do something with that information. And is there a way, maybe through this computational imaging idea, to then fuse this capability together with artificial intelligence? So this is an example of one of the experiments we've been doing. I won't go into too much detail, but basically what we've been able to do is by fusing together the human brain with artificial intelligence, we have enabled non-line of sight vision for humans. What this means is, if we look at this setup, I've got a wall which is separating a digital light projector on the right-hand side, which is just illuminating an object, for example, the letter T. And all I can see, though, from standing on the left-hand side of this wall is just some light intensity, some diffuse light that bounces off the wall from behind the corner. I'm looking at this light goes through my eyes, it's read out from my brain using an EEG, which basically records the electrical signals from my brain, connects these to a computer that houses the artificial intelligence. This is an example of what an experiment would actually look like. I've removed the wall separating the actual object that you can see here. There's sort of like this square pattern you see here. You can see the digital light projector, which is just projecting some checkerboard line patterns onto this cardboard cutout. But all I can see during the experiment is this background flashing light. That's all I have access to. And then by reading this information out using the EEG, so the electrical activity of my brain that's seeing this flickering light, combined with AI, we can then reconstruct an image. So on the left-hand side, you have the actual image reconstructed by the brain plus the artificial intelligence. On the right-hand side, you see sort of the actual reconstruction. And you can do this for various different kinds of objects. You know, it doesn't have to be a square, it can be a sad face, and it can be a smiley face. Now, of course, all this is still very far from the final vision of being able to connect brains with artificial intelligence, and we still have a long way to go. But this is telling us that we have at least a way of building the basic building blocks on which we can then start to construct the bridge that one day will allow us as humans to emerge from our islands of consciousness. Now, in saying all of this, the other evening, I was trying to conjure up some kind of conclusion image that would sort of encompass all of this. And I was just going around in circles, and I thought, well, I've got artificial intelligence on my computer. Let's ask the artificial intelligence. What does the artificial intelligence think this should look like? And this is what it came up with. It's got this image of a bridge that's made out of what I believe the artificial intelligence is thinking are individual neurons. And I think this image actually, I certainly wouldn't go as far as calling it artwork, but I think it captured actually an aspect which I'd had in the back of my head, but hadn't really fully realized. And it's this, there's something unsettling about this image. And I think the concept that is coming across here is that most of us probably are not too comfortable with the concept of artificial intelligence and possibly where it's going. And after all, we've all seen the Hollywood movies from Terminator to The Matrix, where the AI gains its own consciousness and then takes over. And it usually doesn't seem to end very well. So here is something that we can take home and think about. Does it really have to be that way? What if instead, if we learn to grow with AI, and AI then becomes the bridge by which we can become more, the bridge that allows us to connect to others in a more meaningful way, and maybe one day connect our islands of consciousness? Thank you.
Let's all come on video if you can, just to give Danielle a show of support and give a show. That's amazing. Danielle, there was a speaker who I had a chance to work with years ago, Salim Ismail, who was part of Singularity U, and he said it in a couple of talks. He said, we have a choice. We can either go towards Mad Max or Star Trek. And what I'm hearing from you is this very optimistic, positive view that it doesn't have to be a dystopian view of what can happen. It's utopian.
Exactly. Yeah.
And why do you feel that way? I know it's a big question, but why do you feel we have this opportunity to do something more positive? And by the way, if you have a question, please drop it in or come off mute after Danielle's finished answering. Why do you feel that way?
This is this is a huge open-ended question. One place to start is asking ourselves, does AI actually have the opportunity to take over and dominate the world? And there are lots of reasons to believe that it could. One of the main ways of thinking, or the way people think about this, saying, well, if AI gets clever enough, and it already is getting to the point where it can reinvent itself, then it's going to make itself a bit better. And then because it's become a bit better, it can make itself yet better again. And you get this runaway effect, no different from the pandemic and from COVID. You have this exponential increase. And before you know what's happening, it's just going to explode and it's going to have taken over. So they talk about this singularity point when AI might become conscious and just take over. I do not think that... But this ultimately then boils down to the question, what is consciousness? And this is where we're stuck, because nobody really knows. What I think we do know is that it does emerge from complexity, from incredible complexity. And so I believe, I'm a lover of dogs, and I've had dogs since I was a kid. So 50 years of experience with dogs. And it's really interesting to see, I've come to the conclusion that dogs live right at the edge of consciousness. Some dogs you can see that they just do not seem self-consciousness, but just based on how they behave. When they look at themselves in the mirror, do they recognize, do they see, do they understand what they're looking at? And some definitely don't, some definitely do. The dog I've got now she's amazing. I think she's conscious. The dog I had before, also amazing, but not conscious. But what that's telling you, I think, is that the dog's brain probably is the limit at where you have this emergent phenomenon of consciousness that emerges from this complexity, meaning that you're basically more than the sum of the parts. And I just don't think that if that is what is needed, AI just cannot make that for itself, because it lives in a computer, and the computer stands the standing of a computer compared to, in terms of complexity, compared to where it needs to be to reach the level of complexity of a dog's brain, is a bit like saying the solar system compared to the galaxy, to the Milky Way. There's no way. So that's why I'm feeling a bit more optimistic about, are we going to be, just because I don't think it's going to happen. But at the same time, I see a huge opportunity. If we manage to just get past this this feeling of being uncomfortable with the concept of AI, I think it can do wonders for us.
Wonderful. Danielle, if people want to learn more about your work, how do they reach out to you? How can they connect with you?
Email. Just look my name up and email. Yeah.
and they'll find your email on Google, Danielle Facchio. Is that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Please do. I'm looking here, Cindy Goyen, changing how startups start. I might be dropping you an email if that's okay.
Wonderful. This is the whole purpose of one of the reasons why we do exactly this. So wonderful. Let's give Danielle another round of applause, a virtual round of applause.
Thank you, guys. Thank you very much.
Wonderful. We have another speaker, but this is a little different. B-Tool reached out to me on the weekend and she said, I'm not feeling great. But she has delivered this presentation before. Now, B-Tool is to call her a mover and a shaker is an understatement. And here's why. She had this vision, and I remember her coming on to one of our programs sessions saying, it's happening. And she was like a kid in a candy shop. She was so excited because she was creating a brand new center for diabetes, obesity, and metabolism. And it was through partnerships that had never been done before, never created in the hospital network where she works. So what I'm going to share with you is the brief introduction to that opening day. And I'm sharing it with you via video, pre-recorded, because B-Tool is under the weather, but she's here with us. And so I'll be able to ask her a few questions if she's up for it afterwards. So bear with me while I go full screen over here, make sure I've got some volume, and I'm all queued up to share this video. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome, pre-recorded, but here also live, it's very meta. Please welcome B-Tool.
I'm B-Tool Hatipoğlu. I'm a professor of medicine at Case Western Reserve, vice chair of internal medicine, and medical director for Diabetes and Obesity Center at the University Hospital. As you all lived and heard recently from our speakers, that last 2 years, we never appreciated more the importance of scientific collaboration and united resources to serve to the highest good of humanity as we faced an unexpected pandemic. Indeed, our health system leaders changed the culture forever with an historical announcement in 2020. Dear Northeast Ohio, they said, as COVID-19 cases continue to rise, we feel it's important to reach out together. We care about the health and safety of our community, and we are stronger together. The driving force to create the center is to bring all affiliated institutions, researchers, and scientists together to a place of interaction and innovations where we can unite the resources, minds, and methods together to create new ways to look at the current challenges, to ensure individual and institutional success. We will lead as we hear today from the leaders at the pinnacle of their career, hear their research journey. This will be an example of the quality of learning we will strive for and science we will produce. We are thankful to all of our speakers for joining us today. We will share under the center's umbrella new ideas, approaches, educational initiatives, and explore what we need to succeed. We will start sharing today with our workshop. If you have not signed up but have a change of heart, we welcome you. And I'm thankful to all of you who already did. As we contribute and collaborate and produce, we will grow. We will grow personally, professionally, as a center. We will contribute to the growth of science and expansion of knowledge. Today is an invitation for you to be part of an historical movement. Of course, it takes a village to bring all the pieces together. I'm grateful to Dr. Borowski, who came up with the idea to create today's event and shared her fantastic team with our amazing support staff. Together, they weaved today's event. Dr. Grace McComsey, who embraced the idea right away and co-sponsored it with CTSC. Dr. Kenneth Remy, without whom we could not have such an outstanding speakers. And Dr. Mark Brown, our champion and connection to Cleveland Clinic. We thank Dr. Robert Salata, my chairman of internal medicine at the University Hospitals, for his strong support of my team. He will be moderating the first session. And we are thankful to our volunteer moderators for workshops and sessions. Dr. Sangeeta Keshav from Cleveland Clinic, Dr. Robert Bonomo from VA, and Dr. Shari Bolan from Metro Health. We can change the world. Never doubt, said Margaret Mead, that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. I full-heartedly agree with her. However, all starts with a leader, a forward-thinking and approachable leader. It is my honor and privilege to invite the mind behind the concept of this center, our Dean, Dr. Garson. Thank you, and I hope he's here. Dr. Garson.
Congratulations. Let's give Beetle a round of applause. Well done. I know that you would have liked to have delivered it live. Hey, Beetle, are you up for a few questions?
Sure, absolutely.
So let's start by, this is a very different one. It's different than say Danielle's or even Remy's because it's very specific. It's goal oriented. How daunting was it at the beginning when you thought you needed to, when you knew that you needed to do this introduction? What was your mindset?
Oh my God, I wanted that to have a very big impact, even though it's a short time. It was very daunting. I didn't know where I'm gonna go, how to start. I just couldn't pull my way through it, how to do it. I mean, I couldn't have done it without you, Nick. It's just honest to God, you created it in a way that is very different for a medical mind, because I do talks for medical field. This is very different in a way than me talking about high triglycerides or diabetes or a drug for diabetes. I can do that. I know how to start, how to build, how to tell the story and end, but this is not the same. So it wasn't easy for me to pull it together.
Well, it seemed like you were so at ease, and for those of you that don't know Beetle, she's got a warmth and energy and exuberance that stems from every pore of her body. Even though I've never met her in person, I've only seen her virtually, there's always this warmth and energy and it came across in that presentation. Betul, what is happening with this center now that it's been launched? What's next? What's happening next?
Everybody was so surprised. This has been tried for 30 years to bring all these institutions together. So Case Western has these affiliated institutions, and each one of them has their own personality. I am just so proud of this initiative, honestly. And the dean was amazed with the success, because we had 260 people who attended it, which was huge. Now what's happening is, believe it or not, so I have a meeting this week. I'm laughing because I have another meeting coming up in May for this center. So I'm going to keep it going as a just educational. This was a 4-hour meeting. It will be just an hour educational meeting. And I got, by just good luck, someone who's so big in name that I know a lot of people will want to come and hear him. And you know how I got him? I got him through Twitter friendship. He is a friend in Twitter with me. It's just historic moment again, and we are actually giving back people the stories that we received as an evaluations, and then we are going to start having workshops, and we are building a website. So idea is to make everybody accessible to one another, start grant writings and collaborations, and keep the enthusiasm up and running. So
incredible. Well, I want to just tip my hat to you and say congratulations. And your Margaret Mead quote, never doubt that a small group of committed, thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. You are a true change maker, and you're making a huge difference in your community, and it's only going to spill into other communities. So thank you for all you do. Let's hear it for Betul. Let's hear it for Betul one more time. Now, I want to point out, we've got one more speaker, and there were a number of other members of the cohort, but as I mentioned earlier, one of them is traveling in India, and the other had a work commitment that he could not get out of. So unfortunately, we don't get to hear them, but we do have one more. Let me share with you a little bit. I just realized, did I do an introduction? I don't think I did an introduction to you, Betul. I feel like I jumped over that. Did I miss your intro? I just want you to.
No, that's all right. I introduced myself anyway on that video, so they know who I am. That's all right.
But that is just bad form. I just want everyone to know, I'm sorry, this seems really odd, but I feel it's very important. Betul is a professor of medicine at Case Western Reserve School, vice chair of the University Health System, clinical affairs, medical director of Diabetes and Obesity Center. She has received numerous teaching awards from different institutions and mentorship awards. And it's been such a privilege having you in the program and having you speak here today. So thank you very much. Okay, we have Remy Roman, who is going to speak next. I had the privilege of meeting Remy through this program, and then by luck, I was in the United Arab Emirates, and we had dinner 3 weeks ago. So we had the chance to actually meet in person, which was fantastic. Let me tell you a little bit about Remy. Remy leverages clinical best practices across multiple healthcare disciplines through engagement with the company InterSystems Solutions. And in his role, Remy works to improve hospital workflows to ensure patient safety, improve efficiencies, and improve system adoption. A little bit about Remy. Remy holds a BA from American University in Beirut. He has I lost my train of thought. He has a doctorate in medicine from St. George's University of Medicine and a master's degree in infectious diseases from the University of London. And Remy is also a board certified in internal medicine and medical oncology. So please, a warm welcome. Show your hands. Let's hear it for Remy Roman.
Thank you all. Thank you, Nick. Thank you all again for being here with us today. And I'm doing something a little bit different. So I'm not sharing a presentation, actually. I'm just going to talk. And let's see how that one goes, putting that course into perspective and telling you a short story about what am I going to talk about. So thanks again for being here. If you cannot hear me, just wave, I'll stop. Otherwise, what we are here for is to talk about healthcare information technology. For those of you who don't know, this is an $800 billion industry for which experts say we only utilize 40% of its potential. Before we go into there, let me just discuss Rosetta, and I'll tell you who's Rosetta in a little bit. So I travel a lot for my work. I work with the Italian team quite often. And in many of the trips over there during our breaks, we go down to the espresso bar and we like to get a good cup of coffee. They introduced me to a good coffee, which is called a macchiato. That small cup, a little bit of espresso, some milk on the top, just the right mix over there, not too sweet, not too bitter, works perfectly. As soon as I came back from Milan, it was about 2 years ago, I went straight to Dubai Mall, one of the big malls, chose a very good espresso machine that comes also with the grinder of the coffee beans on the top, bought the best 1 kilo of the coffee beans I could get, went home, got super excited, put everything into place and went ahead to make my first macchiato at home. First attempt, it wasn't good. It was too much coffee, not enough milk, and it went down the drain. I felt very bad about it, to be honest. I did another one, tried to change the amount of coffee that we put over there, added the right amount of milk, tasted it, unfortunately, too bitter coffee. Third attempt, I said, maybe my coffee beans are not good. I ordered some really nice ones from Indonesia to come all the way to Dubai, got the coffee beans, put them into place, ended up doing that coffee cup that looks amazing. But again, it didn't work. It didn't taste like that same coffee that I had in Italy. And I was starting to get frustrated. There were some debates with my wife as well, whether we keep that thing on the counter or not, despite how much I paid for it. And it became really, really annoying until I said, I'm going to give it one more try. Of course, I didn't look at the manual before. So I looked at YouTube videos, looked at how to tune that machine and figured they have some very specific way to alter how much coffee to put in, the right temperature for that milk to come in. And after 6 other attempts, I would say, I ended up with that very perfect cup of macchiato coffee that now even my wife likes. And Rosetta, my coffee machine, holds a very special place on my kitchen counter today. And we're so proud of it as we go. So speaking of that, as you can see, today, I want to discuss how healthcare information technology, how can we utilize it to get its full potential? And the reason for that is to be able to truly improve patient outcomes and increase the efficiencies. So if we look at some of the problems, we start off with the technology itself. So for us, naturally, especially clinicians, technology is an alien. Technology is very impersonal to us. So we get out-of-the-box solutions. One solution that fits 80% of the clinicians. Yes, we all work the same way. We all take a patient from point A to point B, give them some treatments and go ahead. However, we struggle in order to understand how to use or how we can tailor that information to what I need as a specialist. As an oncologist, I need only a subset of that patient record. As a pediatrician, I need something else. As a nurse on the floor, she would probably look at finding a different set of information to look at, and so forth. So through time, we learn how to ignore the many facts that are in the system, look at only the pieces that we want to go in, and just simply go on around with our days. So one thing we could work on is basically making it a little bit more personal. So simple tuning of that patient summary to my specialty, looking at a set of common orders I always order and having it ready in one place, and just remembering how to go to the bigger file when I need to, simply improved 80% of my efficiencies and got me to use the system a little bit more. On the other hand, medicine has become super specialized. The patient on average goes to 3 different specialists per year. That means 3 different sets of diagnoses, 3 different sets of medications, 3 different sets of investigations and diagnostic tools that are being done. All of that information is sitting somewhere in that big, humongous screen in front of my clinic that I need to fish through it, try to read out through a narrative which is 3 pages long to understand what has happened to the patient in each and every part of that visit that they have had. Now, that piece of information sometimes contains crucial information about the patient, maybe an anticoagulation they are taking that I have missed in one of the lines when I was reading that data. And simply because I think I will just take the history from the patient again and ignore what my colleagues have done, I could go ahead. And this is one of the major problems where patients end up in the hospital over and over again for misinformation on their medical file that caused them to have problems and be readmitted into the hospital one more time. So simply saying, looking at our colleagues, collaborating more, understanding each other more in a simple way where we only have that 15 minutes to see the patient is extremely crucial. Now, to put all of that into perspective, structure becomes a very important topic. So instead of each one of us having to write a story of how we met the patient, where do we want to go, describe our thought process, what if we use some structured data in order to describe objectively what we want to say about that patient? So instead of having to write a 56-year-old male that walked into my clinic who has had an allergy to bananas that caused him a big rash that started at the foot and went up all the way to the thighs, and all of that story, all what I care about is simply allergy, banana, and rash. That's the only 3 key words that really make sense to me whenever I'm reviewing that file, whenever I'm really in a rush to check that patient, is to see that 3 pieces of information. And in order to be able to get that, all what I need is a simple structure to be in place. We need the doctors and the nurses and the other clinicians that take care of the patient to adopt a simpler way of documenting the same thing that we used to document before. This will also open the potential for decision support that comes from the system to start helping us, if we miss certain information, get the right alerts in order to stop doing something that might be harmful for the patient. On top of it, this could open the door for artificial intelligence that started to work a lot in the financial market for the last 15 years to start working for healthcare and predict when would the patient become diabetic next, or when would the patient develop an antibiotic resistance, or when would the patient be admitted again into the hospital, and help us provide to the patient a better outcome. So simply, just like what happened with me, with my coffee machine, with my Rosetta, those computers in our clinics as clinicians, they too can become personal to us. We could adopt that technology. We could use them in a better way in order to enhance that outcome for our patients. And to do so, we only need 3 simple tools: personalization, collaboration, and structure. So today, if I call out to all the clinicians out there, we have an opportunity. It's like those dark ages opportunities. We have an opportunity to actually adopt a technology we have in place and create a medical renaissance for the 21st century. Thank you.
Fantastic. A medical renaissance for the 21st century. Beautifully put. Lovely. Thank you, Remy. That was terrific. I have a couple of questions, and I'm sure there might be questions from the audience as well. Well done. So compelling. Love the story, the coffee maker, the macchiato story. Let's talk about patients for a moment that are coming in. What do you know if there's, or off the top of your head, I don't want to put you on the spot, what the number of patients either globally or in your country or in North America that get misdiagnosed because of misinformation? Do you have any idea or a sense of that?
It depends from country to country, but being readmitted for the same kind of problem in a hospital in the US, for example, for some diseases is 1 in 5, 1 in 4, 1 in 6, depending on the diagnosis category. That's not necessarily because of, it's mainly because of not having the complete picture around the patient and then discharging them too early or having a lack of a plan down the route of what they need to do. Antibiotic resistance, for example, is among the top 10 things that threaten humanity as per the WHO. So that's how big antibiotic resistance could be. And simply that's another calculation to look at the history of the patient more carefully, what kind of treatments, what kind of lab results came out before you take your chances on the next treatment you want to give to the patient. Numbers vary worldwide. In Finland, for example, we're working with the government over there. We do have around 28% of the emergency cases coming back due to medication mismanagement alone. So wow. It depends where you work, what are the kind of systems you have, but it's a big problem.
Yeah, there's a, you know what, I was going to quote somebody else, but I'm going to go on to my next question, which is, it sounds like the systems and tools that you're referring to, the structure, et cetera, will really open up the opportunities for physicians and specialists to be able to focus on the patient in the right way. Talk to me, or can you share your insights or thoughts on how bedside manner might change because of this, how they might be able to connect in a different way?
It's the major topic of changing the bedside manner is engaging the patient more. So often in the traditional sense, doctors and patients don't communicate that much. So you go into the patient's bed, you explain the diagnosis or you explain the outcome, and in a matter of 2 minutes, 3 minutes, you tell the patient a whole section of the medical book, and you turn around and you leave. And the patient is perplexed, don't know the full understanding of what you try to explain to them. The technology and being able to adopt the technology will help connect the patient to the doctor a little bit more and bring in the patient into their treatment plans a little bit more, which is something that affects a lot the way that patients respond to treatment plans and the way that they improve over a certain period of time in general. Other than that, the major change is clinicians themselves changing the mindset and seeing the technology as an enhancer rather than an obstacle, and start to see the benefits basically that would come out of it. And this is where we stand today. It's a huge amount of investment where still we don't see a lot of the outcomes yet.
Well, I hope the renaissance continues, and I may be confusing the order in which these happen, but I hope there's a new era of enlightenment as well that follows. So Remy, thank you so much. I'm going to ask if there's anybody out there in the audience that has any questions for Remy, Danielle, or Betul before we do a wrap up of the program. No, don't be shy. You can come off mute. You can drop it into your chat as well. Well, I don't see any hands coming up or questions, and I'm going to just speak. And if there's one that comes up, that's absolutely fine for anybody that's there. If anybody is interested in connecting with either Remy or you, Betul, I asked this question of Danielle, if they want to learn more about the work you're doing or the organizations, how can they learn more from you or connect with you?
My email is also public. Like Danielle, if you Google, you'll find us. Yeah, email is the best way.
Okay. And Remy?
LinkedIn is my up-to-date place. So you'll find me over there. You'll find my emails and my contacts, and it's quite easy to reach me there.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a comment from Guy Pieri. It was a great session all the way from Sao Paulo. So thank you for joining in all the way from Sao Paulo. I want to say what a privilege it was for me to work with Remy, Danielle, Betul, Simon, and Niraj also, who are not here today. If you are interested in learning more about the Impact Accelerator, if you're interested in learning more about the work we do at Kindler and Company, you can actually reach out to me at kindlerandcompany.com. There's on every page, there's a reach, a contact. We can also find a time to meet. I'm not sure if, and I don't want to put you on the spot, Margaret, if you can drop Margaret works with me, if there's a link that you can drop into the chat for Calendly, if anybody is interested in meeting and learning. Margaret does run the background of my programs and sets up my meetings. So if you're patient, we'll just drop that in there as well. And if you have any questions for me, I'm also open to answer, but I don't want to hold off and as we wrap this up. Any other questions before we do a final thank you?
Nick, I can't believe this is over.
Yeah, he's getting rid of us. He thinks.
I mean, we've been like every other Monday. It's been this sort of constant thing that I've had in my diary, and it's going. It's gone now. It's what? What am I going to do?
I know. I do with great. I am sad about it, Danielle. It is a real joy having worked with everybody, all of you. And
same here. Same here.
But it doesn't mean goodbye. It just means we'll have to find other reasons to connect.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, if I ever come over Toronto area, I'll be sure to drop you a message.
Oh, you better. And
it'd be great to meet up.
The same is true if I head over to Glasgow. I will be, which is the hometown of my mother. So I've got family there.
Oh, really? Okay. Everyone's welcome whenever you want to come over. We've got a brand new building, actually really excited. You usually ask us at the start of the day, how are you feeling? Really excited today because we're moving in literally now into this brand new building. Glass everywhere. It's wonderful. It's looking good.
Terrific. Well, I know it's the end of the program, but not goodbye. It's not over. Be told, Danielle, Remy, you are all incredible leaders. You're change makers in your own industries, and you're making a real difference. So I want to, again, thank you all for participating, and thank you all for giving of your time into this showcase. I can't wait to see what's next for all of you, and I know we will be staying in touch. And thank you. Thank you, and thank you to all of those who have attended and supported these tremendous leaders. I hope to connect with you all in the near future, and have a wonderful week, everybody.
You too. Thank you once again. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.